are the top stories of the news. Taraba State House of Representatives member-elect Ismaila Maihanchi is dead. Nigerian and international organizations raises concern over the menace of irregular migration. On the foreign scene, U.S. Supreme Court preserves access to commonly used abortion pill, mifepristone. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. In a rather sad development, the House of Representatives member-elect for Jalingo Yorozing Federal Constituency in Taraba State, Ismaila Maihanchi, is dead. Mr. Maihanchi was said to have died in the early hours of this morning after a brief illness. He won the election on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. A source in the family told newsmen that his remains will be laid to rest according to Islamic rites later in the day. We pray may his soul rest in peace. Moving on, Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has urged his successor to complete viable projects embarked upon by his administration. In a statement yesterday, the State Commissioner for Information and Internal Affairs, Mohammed Garba, said the governor holds no grudges against anyone as he leaves office. Governor Ganduje expressed gratitude to Allah for his 20-year-long stint in governance. The governor further stressed the importance of continuity in governance and urged the incoming government to ensure that all viable projects executed with taxpayers' money are completed. As the race for principal offices in the 10th National Assembly enters full swing, the Senate President Ahmad Lawan says the opposition cannot determine who emerges, even though the All Progressive Congress APC no longer had the strong presence it once enjoyed. He also said the governing APC must involve the opposition parties in the leadership structure to ensure legislative stability. Mr. Lawan made this known to State House correspondent after paying a solemn homage to President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, yesterday. He said there is no way the opposition will decide who will be the Senate President or the Speaker of the House, adding that the APC and other leaders will decide. When quizzed about the reported division in the party and the effect it might have on the leadership race, he said it was presumptuous to say that the APC will not be a united party. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has said he cannot wait to head to his hometown in Dara, Katsina State, after he hands over on May 29th. President Buhari spoke yesterday at his 9th and final Salah celebration at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The president said he is lucky to have led Nigeria in various capacities and also thanked the residents of Abuja for tolerating him in the last 7.5 years. On Wednesday, the president returned to Abuja after an 8-day official visit to Saudi Arabia.
I can't even wait to go home. If you said that, I'll move to the Republic. Whoever thought that there has been some form of injustice on him, we are all human. There is no doubt I hurt some people, and I wish they would pardon me. And those that think that I've hurt them so much, please pardon me.
After security matters, no fewer than 4 policemen have been killed in an attack by gunmen in Imo State yesterday. The state police authorities confirmed the incident, revealing that 2 civilians were also killed in the incident along the Okpala junction in Ngo Okpala local government area of the state. Police Public Relations Officer Henry Okoye said the incident occurred when the police team attached to Imbise Ngo Okpala Area Command were on patrol in the area. The command's tactical team have been drafted to the area for intensive combing with a mandate to arrest the perpetrators and bring them to book. The police spokesman appealed for calm in the area, adding that the State Police Command is on top of the situation. In the meantime, the Southern Kaduna People's Union, Sokapu, has said no fewer than 245 communities in the area have been sacked by armed herdsmen in collaboration with terrorists in the past 6 years. The body is therefore appealing to the United Nations and African Union to come to their aid by urgently sending troops to the area on a peacekeeping operation stating that the people of southern Kaduna have lost faith in the capacity and sincerity of the Nigerian security authorities to protect them against bandits and armed herdsmen. Speaking at a news conference in Kaduna yesterday, the president of Southern Kaduna People's Union, Awemi Maisamari, lamented that no fewer than 63 communities in Atyap land in Zango Katav local government area alone have been attacked by herdsmen and bandits, with hundreds of people killed and thousands of others displaced from their homes in the last 6 years. He expressed optimism that the deployment of UN and AU peacekeepers to southern Kaduna will practically demonstrate that the world is with them. Elsewhere, an auto accident involving 4 persons who were riding a motorcycle on Eid al-Fitr Day claimed the life of a person in Ilorin, Kwara State. The 3 other persons on the bike that rammed into a vehicle sustained serious injuries. It was guarded that the victims were returning from the Ilorin Eid prayer ground when the incident occurred at the Balogun Fulani area, Ilorin. 2 of the injured persons were said to have been admitted at the General Hospital, Surulere, Ilorin, while the 3rd victim was taken to a local bone center in the Dada area for treatment. Some local and international organizations have raised concerns over the menace of human trafficking and the plight of refugees across the globe, saying there is a need for concerted efforts by all to check the growing trend. The concerned organizations include the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee, UNHCR, and the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, among others. They made the call in Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State during the premiere of a film, Dangerous Hope, which seeks to enlighten and sensitize vulnerable and other people of concern to the dangers of irregular migration. Calling for an attitudinal change, increased knowledge and awareness for potential traffickers, they sought necessary tools and assistance that could help survivors reclaim their lives. They argued that the need to fight the growing trend in human trafficking is a task that must be done by all. In Oyo State, the state government has assured users of the Oyo-Fashola-Isenyi Road that the newly constructed Ogun River Bridge will be open to traffic soon, saying the work was near completion. Commissioner for Public Works and Transport, Daoud Shango-Doyin, gave the assurance while inspecting the 34.8-kilometer Oyo-Fashola-Isenyi Road, which started in 2021. Mr. Shagodoyin commended the state governor, Seyi Makinde, for his relentless efforts to bring the state agriculture and economy through the construction of good roads. He implored the citizens to protect whatever facility the state government had provided so that there will not be any need for unnecessary repair. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies the Berlin Conference as a major event in history. dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts. Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Samuel Ladoke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical moves that birthed an independent Nigeria from colonial Britain. As a freedom activist, he deployed his wits, energy, intellect, and oratory skills to prepare the grounds for constitutional talks that eventually culminated in the country's independence in 1960. The 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land cut his teeth as a politician when he became a foundation member of Action Group, the dominant political party in the Western region, and was elected the party's parliamentary leader of opposition at the Federal House of Representatives. The crisis in the Action Group, which pitched Samuel Ladoke Akintola against his leader, was not only a sore point in his colorful political life, but a reversal of gains which characterized the exemplary leadership of Awolowo Akintola premiership. 23 years after his death, Oyo State University of Technology Ogbomosho was renamed Samuel Ladoke Akintola University of Technology to keep his memory alive. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ladoke Akintola as a major character in history.
Thank you for staying with us, and you're welcome back. Talking business now. The Lily Pond Export Command of the Nigeria Customs Service says it has processed export goods worth 86 billion naira with a free onboard value of $205 million between January and March 2023. The Customs Area Controller in charge of the command, Babandede Mohammed, made this known in a statement. The statement listed items processed as agricultural produce, which include cocoa beans, cashew nuts, sesame seeds, hibiscus flower, soya beans, and ginger. Other items exported are mineral resources such as lithium ore, Manasseh ore and zircon sand, amongst others. The cost of insuring exposure to United States sovereign debt rose to the highest level since 2011 yesterday, as market jitters that the government could hit its debt ceiling sooner than expected. According to data from S&P Global Market Intelligence, spreads on U.S. 5-year credit default swaps widened to 51 basis points. The data showed that this was more than double the level that stood at the start of the year. According to analysts, the U.S. government's deadline to raise the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling could be sooner than expected, pulling forward the risk of a debt default that could have wide repercussions across global financial markets. Meanwhile, Norway's $1.4 trillion sovereign wealth fund has said it will vote against a resolution calling on British oil major BP to adopt tougher greenhouse gas targets. While BP already aims to reduce emissions, the motion filed by activist group followed this ahead of an April 27 shareholders vote calls on the company to align with the Paris climate deal goal to limit global warming. Norges Bank Investment Management, NBIM, which operates the Norwegian fund, said last year that it plans to take a tougher line on companies that do not adopt credible climate plans. It did not give a reason for rejecting the motion, but the fund, one of the world's largest investors, has said in the past that while it backs environmental, social, and governance proposals put forward by activist groups, it carefully judges each case on its merits. In the United States, the Supreme Court has preserved access to a commonly used abortion pill, ruling the drug can remain available while a legal case continues. In a split decision, it also rejected restrictions on mifepristone implemented by a lower court, essentially maintaining the status quo. The future of the drug was called into question after a Texas judge sought to invalidate its long-standing approval. The case could have wide-range implications for abortion access. It comes after the Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, overturned Roe versus Wade in June last year, ending the nationwide guarantee to abortion and giving states the power to ban the procedure. Meanwhile, in the UK, former Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab has accused activist civil servants of trying to block the work of government after his dramatic resignation over bullying claims. An inquiry found he was intimidating and aggressive towards officials. Mr. Raab told newsmen he was sorry if he upset anyone, but that's not bullying. He said there was a risk a very small minority of officials with a passive-aggressive culture were trying to block reforms they did not like. In his first interview since stepping down, Mr. Raab said the only complaints upheld against him were by a handful of very senior officials out of hundreds of civil servants he had dealt with.
Well, there was certainly some coordination. One of the complaints was struck out because they'd written it together. Look, put it this way. These claims, some of them were 4.5 years old. Another one was 2.5 years old. The vast majority were 8 months old. They were all submitted on the same day, which is 15th of November. I think a few came just a little bit later. That can't be coincidental. But I only know what I know. And I also know that I was warned by a very senior member of the government, a senior civil servant, that there are increasingly activist civil servants mobilised by the FDA union who are looking to target ministers. But all I know is that I think the bar has been so lowered now that the government we've got, and I'm a huge fan and supporter of the Prime Minister, is going to struggle to drive forward the changes we need. There'll be a chilling effect, a paralysing effect on ministers. I'm already, my phone is lit up by ministers now very concerned that they could be accused of these things for behaviour that in most walks of life would be regarded as important managerial scrutiny. And I think that must be wrong.
Still in Europe, Russia has installed new commanders at the head of its Baltic and Pacific fleets. Russia's Interfax and TASS news agencies disclosed this, stating that the former head of Russia's Baltic fleet Admiral Victor Lina is now in charge of the Pacific Fleet. The news agencies reported yesterday that Vice Admiral Vladimir Vorobyov is the new commander of the fleet in the Baltics. Admiral Lina replaces the previous head of the Pacific Fleet, Sergei Avakirants, whose surprise retirement was announced on Thursday. News of Avakirants' removal had made waves, coming just days after the Pacific Fleet was ordered to participate in an unannounced major maneuver set to simulate Russian forces repelling a theoretical enemy landing. In the meantime, Brazil's Defense Minister José Múcio has said the country's plane maker Embera SA will manufacture aircraft that meets NATO's requirements in partnership with Portuguese aerospace company Ogma. Embera, which holds 65% of Ogma's capital, makes several types of planes, including a light attack aircraft called Super Tucano. The company launched last week the A-29 Super Tucano with a NATO configuration, initially focusing on meeting the needs of European nations. Mr. Múcio, who is in Portugal with other ministers as part of a 5-day state visit by President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, said certifying the company's aircraft by NATO could open doors in the European market and others. Mr. Múcio further stated that production in Portugal was important because it already meets NATO's prerequisites. And talking sports, Man United boss Erik ten Hag says he loves the all-or-nothing nature of cup football ahead of his side's FA Cup semi-final tie. Ten Hag, speaking ahead of the game against Brighton, said he wants to see an instant response from his side. Man United were knocked out of the Europa League quarter-final after a damaging 3-0 defeat to Spanish side Sevilla.
Yeah, you ask a lot in one question, but yeah, of course I always think about, do I refresh because I have a squad, but also I know that we in this season, when we had bad defeats, bad performances, we bounce back, and I'm convinced and I have a strong belief we can do again because we have the experience.
Staying with football, Arsenal staged an incredible late fight back to secure a 3-3 draw against Southampton, but the Premier League leaders were still left frustrated by a damaging result that put their title challenge in jeopardy. Mikel Arteta's side escaped with a point despite trailing 3-1 with just 2 minutes of normal time left at the Emirates Stadium. Martin Odegaard's goal sparked Arsenal's revival and Bukayo Saka snatched the equalizer in stoppage time. The Gunners will travel to second-place Manchester City on Wednesday, knowing fully well that Pep Guardiola's side control the destiny of the title. Arsenal are 5 points clear of City, but the champions have 2 games in hand due to their involvement in the FA Cup semi-finals against Sheffield United on Saturday.
It's just they want it so much, you know. It's me personally, what I've experienced there, not only with the players, with the staff, and with our supporters, it was incredible because I know how difficult it is. And after 1-0, you make a big mistakes, you can see, you know, and then you make another mistake, and 2-0. You are trying to just play and play and play against a team that is doing what they have to do as well because where they are. And after the first time they go through the halfway line, they score the second one, and then it's a big question mark. What do you do as a team? What do you do as an individual? The response of the players, I cannot love them more, honestly. It's just a joy to coach them. It's just a joy to be part of this club and experience what I have experienced together with the team. And at the end, the magic moment was there to be taken. We had 2 big chances at 3-3 to score, but today it didn't happen, unfortunately, and that's why we are like that. You know, we'll be very different with the same.
Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The House of Representatives member-elect for Jalingo Yoro Zing Federal Constituency in Taraba State, Ismaila Meihanchi, is dead. Some local and international organizations have raised concerns over the menace of human trafficking and the plight of refugees across the globe saying there is need for concerted efforts by all to check the growing trend. On the foreign scene, the U.S. Supreme Court has preserved access to a commonly used abortion pill, ruling the drug can remain available while a legal case continues. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12. I am Tunde Idowu. Have a great weekend.